Yay. All right. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon and good evening, wherever you are, whenever you are listening to this. My name is Margaret Pennard. Oh, wow. Looks like we're under new branding. And we're doing a wrap up today pre-holiday. So if you're in America and you're celebrating Thanksgiving, you may be with family, you may be on the road. Safe travels, everyone, and good luck with the family part. So this is my Wednesday wrap up. I had my last wrap up 2 weeks ago. So 2 weeks, I've got 7 books, and I've got a question of the day, and then I've got current reads, and I have a second question of the day, which is just for fun at the end. So, hello, welcome. My name is Margaret Pennard. I am a historical fiction author and an eclectic reader. And as I said, I know everyone's at sixes and sevens. That is an old expression. Don't come at me. Uh, this week, so I may not see as many people, but you can always come back. If any of these books are making you curious, you'll hear my thoughts today. So I'm going to be sharing the Storygraph screen here, and I'm going to change it a little bit so that I'm in the right spot. So there we go. So 7 books, and I'm going to be grouping them according to personality. So not when I read them, but you'll see. Oh, and I should cover the question of the day. So let me put that up in the front here. I am curious because most of my books are from the library this time. What makes you head for the library rather than buy a book? So let me know. It's decision-making question, so you may have to think about it a little bit. Hi, Jim. Jim says, I really need to explore the libraries around here. Yeah, what surprised me on Booktube is that from state to state, county to county, country to country, a lot of library systems work differently. People have different benefits or obstacles to overcome. So the library question is an interesting one to me. I love my library. They do a great job. I particularly like the hold system, which is super easy, their requesting purchasing system, which is super easy, and yeah, just the effort that they make to try to be inclusive and reach out and have people use their services since we're paying for them, right? So anyway, first book I'm going to cover here was included in my Cozy Translated Books video of last Friday. So if you haven't seen that yet, check it out. It's down in the description. It's So Youngri Book Kitchen by Kim Ji Hai. And in case you're wondering, what is a book kitchen? Is this fantasy where they cook books? No, it's a place in the countryside that is part cafe, part guest house, part bookshop. And it's not really clear how they manage all those different things when they're rural and they have a small staff. But, that's the fantasy part. Um, so I picked this up because it was on a list of cozy translated books. It is a Korean translation, I believe. And it seemed to have all the elements that I like. Let's see, consulting my notes here. This is the one that I said was kind of like Amelie because the original person who moves out and opens the book kitchen sort of gets to see a lot of different people in different issues in their life, and tries to help. It's sort of like door-to-door bookstore because it's about all those people's lives sort of crashing together, but it wasn't as knit together as those examples. So I would say it was a bit more disjointed and loose flowing than those 2 examples. It also kind of struck me as being like the Smiley Laundromat book that I talked about, but not as madcap at the end. Like that actually had a chase scene at the end, and this one gets quieter and more reflective at the end. So if you're in the mood for a book that is themed very quiet and calm, and there are conflicts, but they're just very gently dealt with, and you're not in that person's POV hyperventilating with anxiety, I think it's a good choice. Oh, hello, Anne. Just got home from the library with my daughter. Speak of the devil, we do love a library errand. Excellent. And Ven is here. Hello. I was watching a UK budget breakdown, but this is far more interesting. Hi. Well, you can always pause that and come back, right? Excellent. I'm glad you're involved in the politics. All right, so the next book is also featured in my cozy translated video, the link for which is down in the description, and that is going to be The Tearjerker. This one. There we go. The Traveling Cat Chronicles by Hiro Arikawa. So this is Japanese translated. And this is from the point of view of a cat mostly. And he's got a very funny tone, a very wry New Yorker-esque voice. And he talks about his owner for most of his life, his master, and how the master is trying to find a home for the cat, and the cat doesn't want to leave. So he goes through all these different phases of his life, how he's met people. Oh, maybe this person can take the cat. We know him from this. And maybe this person can take the cat. We know them from that. And so you get to learn more about the master's life until the end, and like the reason why he's trying to offload the cat. And it's just so good. And what I really liked in particular was the challenging of the notion of personhood. Like, you may have read in headlines that different countries around the world are electing to assign personhood to natural pieces of the landscape, right? So like a river has personhood, and so it has rights. And I think that's a really interesting idea. And, you know, along the lines of indigenous knowing and science, and trying to bridge the distance between indigenous science and Western science, and trying to figure out how they can grow together. I just think that's an interesting idea, that more people should consider that objects that don't move, or, make human motions, might also have wishes and desires and intentions. So pretty neat. So that's for the cat. Funny cat, tearjerker, personhood. Those are my notes. Highly recommend. As you can see, it's a 5-star book for me. It's cozy, it's funny, it's sad, it's dealing with like loss, and revisiting pieces of your life where you wish you had done something differently. So highly recommend. Library. You'll notice all of these are tagged library, which is why I have that question of the day. Okay, so those are the 2 cozy translated books. Let me check in here. Eva is here. Hello, Eva. Anne says she's a freshman in high school. She needed something for a school project. She's always loved the library, talking about her daughter. Awesome. A school project. I'm guessing it's due after Thanksgiving, or maybe you're in England. I can't remember. Maybe the holiday doesn't have any meaning at all. Jim says, I just read a book looking at personhood for robots, erasing Emily. Oh, interesting. See, that's a man-made phenomenon. So that's like a very different discussion to me. Julie, hello. I love my library, and I have such good memories of my mom taking us kids to the library when I was a little girl. Awesome. Okay, so in case you didn't see, everybody who's come in a little bit later, the question of the day is, what makes you head for the library rather than buy a book? So all of these that I got, these cozy translated books, most of them I got from the library, and they had copies rather than buy the book for myself, because the few that I have tried, I realized they're comfort book types, but they're not the kind I'm going to read over and over again, because the differentness of the translated quality is not sort of the comfort for me. And once I realized that, I realized I don't have to buy them, and so I can really enjoy them from the library. But what about you guys? What would your answers be? All right, we got an answer. I'm going to save that for the next break. And it says, she finished The Circle of Days by Ken Follett. Excellent. We are hearing from a Ken Follett fan. Sweet. Eva's got an answer. Jim says, my first job was a Saturday job in my local public library from the age of 16 to 18. That sounds like a foot in the door. Interesting. I wish we had that. And Laura is here, says, my old library had a cat. That was a good reason to go. That's not exactly what I was asking, but I do appreciate that. I don't think our libraries would be allowed to have a cat, which, is its own commentary. Okay, so the next two books, oh shoot. I specifically made banners for these so that it would be easier to go back and talk about or label the timestamps. So Young Marie Book Kitchen got a kite. I don't know why. Traveling Cat Chronicles, of course, got a cat. And the next two have to do with boats. So I'm going to put that up and talk about the next one, which is Salvagia, which is a made-up word, the title for this book. I listened to this on audiobook, so this is not a library book, but I listened to this. I started it in August, believe it or not, and was like, I don't know. There's some weird stuff going on with this narration, so I put it down. But then I saw that I could finish it in the trip driving down to California, so I turned it back on and I remembered enough of the story to go with it. And Salvagia by Tim Chawaga is a dystopian mystery that's very plot heavy. It's set in a world where this main character is a diver, a salvage diver, and that's what Salvagia is. In a future where Florida is underwater, they have something called the Your Shore, which is all of the previous landscape of Florida that is now underwater. And apparently there's a niche market, kind of like Bitcoin now, for salvage things from our current material culture. And the book starts out with our main character having found a kid and like being really excited about such a score because she found one where it's all encrusted on one side and perfectly new looking on the other. Anyway, what we dive into, pun intended, is a sort of rip-roaring action where she stumbles into someone else's plan because she discovers a murder victim and then discovers there's the mafia involvement and then discovers the feds want something from this too. And so she's sort of caught in this big maelstrom of action and trying to figure out how to just keep her boat, right? The boat's semi-sentient, speaking of personhood. So, just really fun ideas to play with, which is what attracted to me in the first place, but also like some really interesting sneaky commentary that I appreciated, uh, which I won't go into now because it's just bookmarked on my Libro.fm app. But I just thought it was really smart. Like I said, there were some issues with the pronunciation, but I thought it was a really fun book, and the narrator did a really good job of voicing the different people, giving them different personalities. Um, let's see, from my notes, random referring to the fact that I picked it to read it all because I'd never heard of the author before. Science fiction, dystopian, action, epic, and bittersweet. So the ending is it's sort of like, you feel like everything is lost and then they pull it out of the fire at the last minute, but they do lose some things. So, definitely not cozy, but, a really interesting dystopian mystery. Thriller mystery. I wanna call it a mystery because you don't know what's happening. So yeah. Alright, so Julie's got an answer. I'll save that one. Ven's got an answer. Laura's got an answer. Okay, so we'll go through the answers after my next book, which is also boat related. Here we go. So this one I actually saw in an indie bookstore called Always Here Bookstore, I think, which is a great bookstore. I bought a different book there, but I saw this one in hardcover, and it's sort of like a dreamy romance called The Titanic Survivors Book Club by Timothy Shaffert. And Timothy Shaffert has written another like big hit, whatever, but I hadn't read it. So I looked at that and I was like, "Oh, I don't wanna spend $30 on a hardcover book where it's a romance," and I think I'm not likely to reread it. So I tried to look up the paperback release to see if I could put that in my pre-order series. And again, it was very hard to find when it would be released. So I just went to the library instead. So uh, Titanic Survivors Book Club, just what it says on the tin. It's an interesting setup. So we have 3 main characters, but the book club is started because someone outside of the 3 main characters thought it would be interesting to gather together all the people he could find who almost went on the Titanic, like had a ticket, but for some reason did not. And so they have this weird sense of having avoided death. And so they meet, and our main character is a bookstore owner in Paris, which is fun to have a Paris setting. And then most of the other people are English speaking. And the 3 that really hit it off have this weird, awkward love triangle. And by love triangle, I mean an actual love triangle, which is very rare to find. So each person loves someone else, and it's a closed circle. So yeah. Notes for Titanic. Let's see. How I picked it up. Yes. Interesting premise. The style, I would say it's rather like The Night Circus or V.E. Schwab's A Darker Shade of Magic. So it feels like time is slowed down a little bit to play out this like emotional plot of these characters coming to terms with liking someone and them not being liked by the person they want, right? So it's mostly that. A lot of beautiful language, a lot of not puns exactly, but literary references, I should say. So the bookstore owner is all about books, obsessed with books, knows a lot of books in his inventory, just wants to hoard them really, not sell them. I'm sure you can relate. Um, but the other 2, one is a very worldly woman and an heiress of a candy fortune, and one is sort of a uh, grown-up child of the streets, and he is like beautiful and charming, but yeah, they all keep secrets from each other, and so that is a source of stress and misery sometimes, and um, sort of delicious misery in other times. So if you're in the mood for that sort of like vague, drifty, woe is me kind of vibe, it starts right after the Titanic. It goes through the book club, a few rotations, and then it actually goes through World War One. So again, removed from the battlefield, but some regular suspect themes when you dive into a world war. And yeah, really enjoyed it, especially for those literary mentions and like things you might look up if you're a big nerd. Um, so yeah, LGBTQ pick, um, great bookstore, lovely cover. Then it might be calling your name, unless you're like not a Titanic person, and then maybe you just don't want to deal with it. So, okay, so those are the 2 boat books, and I will hide that for a second so we can go over your lovely answers. Hi, Kappa. Good morning. Good morning. All right. So the answers first from Eva. Why would you go to the library to buy it? To pick up a book, borrow a book, rather than just go to a bookstore and buy it? Eva says, I go to the library just to exist there more often than to pick up a book. So different uses, different community uses. Our library is very family, community, and writer friendly. Ooh, that's great to hear. Yeah, Um, I used to go to one of my local libraries because they had a little writer's room that was, like, not fenced off, but, segregated, and you just had a desk and quiet, and, you could just reserve it for a certain amount of time. It was just nice. And free Wi-Fi, obviously, so it was good for writing. Julie says for her answer, I borrow library books to explore new to me genres that I'm not sure I like. That is an excellent reason. Yes. Yeah, cozy translated. I was trying to feel out if I like the genre, and I do enjoy it, but so far I haven't found one that I would want to reread because it's new and fascinating, but not like close to my heart, if that makes sense, which is required for a comfort read again and again. Um, yeah, Cozy translated. The other one I was just talking about was like LGBTQ romance. Um, Romance has to jump a lot of hurdles before I'll keep it. I have a very small romance read section. Ven's Coroner says the chance of my local libraries having any book I want in physical is sadly slight due to short-sighted underinvestment. Oh, and we're relating it back to the budget video. Nicely done. The ebook range is better, but very, very hit or miss. Yeah, that's a bummer. Yeah, I don't know what the system is in the UK, but in the US, libraries have budgets for acquisitions, obviously. There's different contracts set up for physical books versus ebooks. You can buy however many copies of both. You can have however many out of ebooks at once. Audiobooks, same thing. There's different apps to use for ebooks and audiobooks at the library, and people may have different favorites. Some may no longer work because of disinvestment here. It's kind of a crazy changing landscape. And some libraries are going to be on the forefront, on the cutting edge, and some are not. So, yeah. But I did hear that a lot of them had slashed funding due to our present administration. So I don't know what's going on in the UK. Let us know. And Laura's answer is I often get research books from the library. I could never afford to buy them all. That is also a very good point because research books tend to be like, well, if they're textbooks, they're going to be 40, 50, 60, 80, 100 plus. Yeah, and very hard to find. And you only need them for probably like one chapter. I've done a lot of what we call interlibrary loan. So if my county library doesn't have it, they have a link up with a bunch of other libraries in the world. And I've had libraries ship us books here from Canada and from just other states. And that's pretty great. I like that they link in international because libraries are amazing. Research books. There's also books at the library that you can consult, but you can't take away because I think the replacement value is too high. And I've only looked at a couple of those because it involved special hours and like getting a clearance from someone there. So it was a little bit fiddly, but again, a good resource, I should say. Let's see if there's any other answers. Cat Paw's got one. I used to go to the library to get inspiration, discover new things to read risk-free. Yeah, exactly. Like we said before, use the computers. Yeah, since I didn't have one, community property, do research, etc. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, so place to hang out like Eva, risk-free like Julie, I think. And yeah, other resources like computers. Mad. Hello, Lynn. Welcome. Libraries are the bomb. I also can sign out from the local university college library. See, I don't have that privilege. I would have to have a student ID. So lucky, lucky you. I tried to one time because I could see in the interlibrary loan that they had a book. But when I wrote in, they said you needed a student ID. And they, for some reason, wouldn't lend it to the county library. So I had to get it from somewhere else, but I got there in the end. Ben says, I'm keeping account of how many books you mentioned are available at my local library system. Currently at 0. So of the 4 that I just mentioned, really? Wow. They're all traditionally published books in America. I don't know who Salvagia is through publisher-wise, but that is interesting. All right, so I have an incoming Voxer about libraries from Ven. I get very passionate, annoyed about this. Understandable. Okay, so we're down to 4. We have 3 left, and so the next section we're talking about a little broom emoji here, the Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. And I spelled it right on the screen. I just got it wrong in my notes. Okay, so this story was much more familiar. I would almost categorize this as cozy as well. I'll go up here and share it so people can see. Here we go. I almost read it a while ago, and I think it was hard to get hold of because of the holds. It's a very popular book on the library, so I think I put it away and was like, "Nah, don't worry about it." And then for some reason, maybe the witchy month of October, I tried to check it out again, and then I finally got the hold. Um, and it was very cute. So it's by Sangu Mandana, and I think there might be another book out by her in the same universe. I'm not quite sure. But as I say, it's much more familiar to me than the Titanic one. It's about a woman who has very low self-worth, and she takes a chance on a found family. So our main character is a witch who's been brought up in very isolating, emotionally absent circumstances because of the witch landscape in the UK. It's present day. There's some scary rules, and so she has to abide by these rules for like everybody's safety, right? But the message, like, oh, I like the message. That's what I put. She takes a chance on a found family, meaning um, she wants to live life differently, but she isn't sure how she'll ever do that. And then she finds these group of weirdos and is like, oh, maybe this will work. And then, it ends up working because it's a romance. And on that note, the romance is my least favorite thing about this because the hero is very just broadly sketched. I didn't think he had much of a character. He's your run-of-the-mill grumpy, but then also like superhuman in a male romance lead way. So I I I didn't really get behind him, but that's fine. It's cozy in most of the ways. There's, kids, there's cuteness, there's potions, there's books. It's in the countryside, as I said in my cozy, themed video. There's a small cast of characters. You're mainly in this, like, isolated, house where these people are getting to know each other, and the stakes are this one house getting found out by everyone else, but then that also could lead to compromising the safety of all the witches in England or in the world. And so the stakes are kind of too big for a cozy fantasy. But otherwise it feels very cozy. So yeah. Also a good read, like a good message. Um Yeah, I don't have a comp for this, but I enjoyed the magic system and the rules behind it, so that was kind of fun. Oh, the other thing I really liked about this was the setting because it's set in an actual place and it references like the nearby places that are actual places and previous life things in England. And I just like that because I like to learn about the reputation of different places around the island. So that was fun. I enjoyed that a lot. All right. We're gonna go to Sandy Dunes next, and, here we go. So for some reason, the audiobook has a vertical cover. Doesn't make sense to me, but we're gonna go with it. This is Legendary Fry Bread Drive-In. It's edited by Cynthia Leidick Smith, but there's, I think, like 15 different stories, and, I listened to the audiobook version. So I also listened to the audiobook version with a buddy who is Rachel from RK Stumbling Bear. She has a great channel. She reads a lot of sci-fi and fantasy and reads for, Spiffbo or the other one. I can't remember what that abbreviation is, but the prize for, indie science fiction books. So I think I probably have recommended her channel to you before. But yeah, so she's really great. We had a good time blasting back and forth our opinions. We did one short story per day and then did our thoughts so that we didn't get like it all mushed together. This is a YA collection of short stories, and they're very differentiated in terms of themes and voices and topics. And I just thought it was a really good collection. Um, let's see. So I recognize a good handful of the author names and was pleased that I like knew of them. Um, the narrators, I even knew some of the narrators too, which was great. It's definitely YA. So most of the characters are between like 12 and 18, and the themes involve growing up, but also obviously indigenous community themes, and also coming of age, and also universal themes like grief and belonging. Uh, and what else did I put in? Grief, belonging, vulnerability with people, and like the difficulty to receive. So if you're in a relationship and like you're not used to receiving, it's hard. So that was in there. I thought it was really well done. Um, so the cool part about this, the lovely setup that I enjoyed, is the magical realism of this fry bread drive-in that appears when you need it, right? So lots of the American context is that there's lots of different reservations across the country, but somehow the drive-in is like just down that road or through the forest or wherever you remember how to get there, right? Kind of like Narnia. And so I love that part, that tied together a lot of different, it's called intertribal stories on the front, because a lot of different indigenous nations have their own ways to get there, and everyone sort of mixes in a happy harmony once they get there, which is neat. Some of the characters also overlap between stories, so that was fun to see, like, the nod toward, "Oh, there's Kiki with the stroller," or, "Oh, there's the grandmother that we've seen before." It's really fun. And let's see, the people who work there's a lot of volunteers. They're called legendary grandparents. So it's elders, and they each have like cute little badges or aprons or like fun glasses or something, that just makes them feel like they fit in, which I loved. The food descriptions are mouth-watering, so I really wanted to try a lot of the food that they had. I definitely need to find some place that makes fry bread so I can get the sense of how it's supposed to be made before I try to put my version on there. Let's see. I talked about the diversity of story structures was one of the cool things. And I think I mentioned this to Ven, but there's a short story in here that I think is my favorite that is basically all uh, WhatsApp messages, because it's between a group of uh, RPG players. And so it starts out with the, "Hey, has anyone seen this person?" Because they were late to the game and they had to cancel the game. And she doesn't show up. She doesn't show up. And then I think 2 days later, when they're about to like try to figure out how to call cops on an area where they don't know, even though they don't know the person in real life, she shows up in the chat, and they sort of get around to, okay, what happened, and she doesn't say much, but then she directs the game. She's the DM for the next RPG, and she sort of sketches out what she's been through in the last week, and I was like, "Wow, that's so cool." It's all in messages. So the story structures vary. Many of them are more traditional, but like some of them are pretty inventive, and that was my favorite. Um, we've also got, like, different words from different indigenous languages sprinkled in, which I loved. I followed a few creators on TikTok who are basically doing, like, native word of the day, and so that's been fun. I already detailed the themes and my favorite story, but I just really enjoyed, they're about 20 to 30 minutes to listen to, so I would go out on a walk, listen to it half the way, think about it, write my thoughts to Rachel, on Voxer, and then sort of walk back and, like, think about the story. It was, like, perfect timing. So, even if you're not a short story person, I am really not a short story person, but I did love the theme that tied these all together, that was all about young people and their communities and connecting with their elders and being true to themselves. So it's a great one for the month because it's Native American Heritage Month, but it's also a great one for community. So if that is like a vibe you're looking for, and you can gift it to someone, you can buddy read it with someone, I highly recommend. Favorite of the bunch, Legendary Fry Bread Drive-In. So can't I can't think of another way to, like, recommend it to people. I really wish more people see it, because I think it's a great project. Let's see, Anne says, "I love a lot of translated literature, and unfortunately, our library doesn't get a lot of those." That could be a hard one. They also don't get a lot of LGBTQIA books, Ooh, okay. Well, that maybe you can check out your request for acquisition policy. My library has a limit of 2 per month. And I think that's great because I don't really exceed that. But that's the way I've gotten indie books in there if they're available through a non Amazon channel. And just like political books that may not come across their radar that I find on podcasts. And yeah, UK books a lot of the time. But yeah, maybe you can start like a little collection if they're exceeding to your demands. Oh, Lynn's got some news here about Thomas King. He has no indigenous ancestry. Really? I read up about his background where he said he identifies as Cherokee and like he's had a long and storied career as an indigenous storyteller. So maybe check whether it's new or old news. I mean, I definitely haven't seen anything recent that was, like, categorical about it, but that would be quite nefarious if that was true. Okay, so last book is a cookbook, and this is where I'm gonna put up my second question of the day, which is, um I wrote it down, didn't I? Oh, yeah, here we go. Favorite holiday dish you're making tomorrow? So I know this won't affect some of you not being in America, but um, the next book I have on my list, the seventh today, is Justine Cooks. So this is by a cook that I found on TikTok, Justine Doiron. Um, and she is a pescatarian. So basically, like me, she is mostly vegetarian, but makes exceptions for, I would say, sustainably caught seafood. Um, and I just really like her presentations, her content, right? She's in California. She's got a wry sense of humor. She's kind of a dork. I love it in my like I dork to dork kind of way. So she's funny. She just like does cute little things. She has got her process that I like. Lots of like silly outtakes and comments off to the side. But I think she gives really helpful technical tips, and I think she has a good seasonal flavor sense, but also bringing like new or unthought of things into the mix. So I just really like the content that she's delivered, and I've done a couple of her recipes, and they were really good. So, um, if you have heard of Heidi Swanson, she reminds me a lot of Heidi Swanson, who did, I think, Everyday. I can't remember. I have a bag with it sewn in because I won it in a giveaway, but I can't remember um, Heidi Swanson's brand. But she went vegan and she was like very exacting about things and had like very involved multi-step processes for substitutes for common things that I think you could still use. Like I'm just getting organic eggs. I'm not going to go into like the flaxseed and the egg replacement and all this kind of stuff. So less exacting, but still like very seasonal and healthy cooking. So I recommend Justine Cooks. I checked this out from the library. And I had to wait. I had to wait on all of these books, but then I finally got them. She says mostly plants in her title for finding your way in the kitchen. And yeah, so I tried a couple before returning it. I returned all my library books before I came down here, except for one, which I'll get to when I talk about current reads. And I just really liked it. So, this is bringing up my cooking question. I have already made a preparatory recipe, which is the cornbread for the stuffing, because we have a gluten-free person in the household that we're having for dinner. So I want to be careful of that. And yeah, what is the favorite holiday dish you're making tomorrow? I am setting my sights on Brussels sprouts, and I've got like a date ginger dressing thing that I'm going to put with the roasted broccoli, not broccoli, roasted Brussels sprouts salad kind of thing. It is from a Justine recipe. So that's my like little new thing to do this year, which I hope will come out well. Okay, Jim is coming in with the Google here. Thomas King is of Greek and German descent. Until 2025, he believed he had Cherokee ancestry, but he was mistaken. Really? Okay, so this is like, oh my gosh. He met with the Tribal Alliance Against Frauds, which I've never even heard of. Oh my goodness. So maybe like accusations were leveled. Um, Interesting. That's really thorny because his books have been so lauded by many in the indigenous community. I wonder, like, if he spent a lot of time in Cherokee Nation communities because he has a very particular style that I think is quite distinctively not white. But oh, that's ouch. That's a bummer. Oh, okay. Well, I'll probably look into that after the holiday to see what indigenous folks have to say about it. Um, okay, so Kim, the lifelong reader, hello, coming in at the end here to say green bean casserole is her win for the holiday. That's a good one, especially if it's like the cream of mushroom with fried onion topping. That's classic. It's a classic. Ven is at 0 available from the city libraries I come under. That's like 0 for 7. Seriously? That's a bummer. Huh. Huh. Do you have something that is an equivalent to the interlibrary loan where if they don't have it, you can request that the library borrow it from another library? Because there's like an interlibrary agreement where I am, which is really helpful. I can't imagine that they don't have something like that. In your humongous free time, Ven, could you please research that? It might end up being helpful to you, but I'm also very curious. Libra is here. Hello. I don't know, Margaret. Today is National Cake Day. You don't know about what? The dish? Or I don't know. I sensed there's humor there, but I'm missing the link. You'll have to spell it out for me. Julie has an answer for the second question. Mrs. Cubison's, okay, also very traditional. Herb seasoned stuffing with broth, onions, and celery. So we love it. That's the one my mom loves as well. But because it uses, like flour bread, we're switching to cornbread stuffing. So I think we'll just do the same kind of formula, but use the cornbread instead. So hopefully that goes over well. Libra says, favorite for tomorrow, something that once lived. Okay. Anne says, macaroni and cheese is the tradition. Really? Macaroni and cheese for Thanksgiving. That is a unique spin. Okay. All right. Lynn says, I vote every day is National Cake Day. Yes, ballot in the box. I agree. Second that vote. All right. So we've got 3 votes for every day is cake day. Why not? In fact, I love that energy because here's one of my favorite cookbooks of the last 2 years. It's Benjamina Ebwehi's A Good Day to Bake. There's the front cover. And any day is a good day to bake. So I've cooked like a dozen recipes out of this book, and I think only one has not worked for me. So very, very solid in that recommendation. Let's pop them back up here. Excellent. Let's see. Did I get through? I had a timer on this one. So I hope you appreciate all the emojis that I definitely helped myself with timestamps because now they're going to be all over the place. Oh, well. Okay. Great answers to questions of the day. Ooh, Anne makes oyster stuffing. That is a New England thing, I think, and very fancy. I definitely remember coming across recipes for this, and like historical recipes for this in my 19th century cookbook research. That's fascinating. I don't think you'll find many of those on the West Coast, though. But that's really cool. All right. So how about everybody's current reads? I'm just going to say, let's see, current reads. Oh, I just had this screen up. I guess I could just look at that. Current reads. Nope. Doesn't want to show me current reads, just read books. Try again. Recently read, current reads. Oh, here we go. So there's another audiobook that I started in August and was like, I'm not into this. This is weird. I can't grasp the direction. And so I picked that up again, and I'm listening to Soil and Spirit by Scott Chasky. And I have never heard of Scott Chasky before, but he seems to be like a farmer poet. You guys have seen this one? It's from Milkweed Editions, which is a Midwest publisher. And Cultivation and Kinship in the Web of Life is the tagline there. And then, of course, I'm still working away. I am close. I am less than 100 pages to the end of Walking with the Wind, a memoir of the movement by John Lewis with Michael Dorso. So co-writer, I suppose, to help with the storytelling, but like really good, really good. So how about you guys? What are you currently reading, and do you have any time to read, or are you already cooking up a storm? Ven says, in theory, yes, you can. I'm looking at the hoops you have to go through. Oh, bummer. So ours is just you find a place to request and you have the ISBN, and I don't think it requires you to choose which copy. Maybe it does, because I remember seeing where it's available and choosing one that's the nearest mileage, you know? Boo. Well, I hope it's easier than you think it is. Jim is currently reading The Dinosaur Hunter by Deborah Cadbury about 19th century paleontologists for Nonfiction November. Excellent. Yeah, you can see my reads. I guess they do fit in with Nonfiction November as well. I'm on page 425 out of like 503. So less than 100 pages. Ben says, currently reading a middle grade horror called Whispering Pines. Has some surprisingly creepy moments. Is that one of the ones that you put in the poll? This sounds like one of the ones you put in the poll because they all had like horror vibes. Julie's current reads are Catcher in the Rye, a physical copy. I need to get an ebook copy of that for my dad. And Jane Austen's Bookshelf, which is an audiobook. Loving both. I think I just heard another booktuber talking about Jane Austen's Bookshelf and how good it was. So glad you're enjoying it as well. Lynn is reading Children of the Broken Treaty. I think that's the typo. I'm going to connect those two by Charlie Angus, which sounds like a Native American Heritage Month read. Children of the Broken Treaty. Interesting. Is that a thick nonfiction? I haven't heard of Charlie Angus before, so I'm just sort of guessing by the title there. Anne says, I was raised in Southeast North Carolina. Okay. Oysters there makes sense as well before moving to Delaware. Okay. Then the oysters. Yeah. A lot of friends here think I eat strange things. That makes sense. That tracks. Yeah. The South to the East. What were we just watching? Oh, so when I came down here, I was watching the last episode of the American Revolution documentary by Ken Burns with my parents, and it was fascinating. They went into a lot of the final battles, which were centered around South Carolina and then Virginia. So I learned some stuff I had not known, which is pretty cool. There's that. Libro is currently reading Don DeLillo's Underworld and a Lincoln biography. All right, so fiction and a nonfiction. I like that. Even-handed, book in each hand. Balanced diet, right? It's a joke that I love. Cat Paw, just DNF'd my current read. Oh, boo. Haven't decided on what next. Well, you could always try putting up a poll if you have the community post thingamajig on your YouTube channel. That's what Ven did to help him decide. It was, oh no, the books that he pulled, I didn't realize it was book 1 of 4. Oh, well, it's still book 1, so you don't have to continue. Do not adopt the Jenny approach to series. Adopt the Margaret approach, which is you wrote them. I don't have to keep reading them. Or I can live years of my life in between and be perfectly happy. That's my approach. Kim is currently rereading Jane Eyre, one of my favorites of all time, with a buddy. Very fun. And continuing on with the Cider House Rules. Ah, okay. So you must be part of the John Irving read along. That sounds fun with Pat. Lynn says nonfiction. Okay, so the Broken Treaty one. Charlie Angus was the MPP for this northern region, including Treaty 9 territories. He personally knew Shannon Kustachin, whom this focuses on. Ah, okay, so Treaty 9 territories. I'm not familiar with that designation. Um, it could be because it's a Canadian legal entity, which I wouldn't be as familiar with. Although 21 Things You Don't Know About the Treaty is on my reading list, and it's on my shelf, so I do have it in hand and physical, just not here. It's back in Portland. So, maybe for next year. Anne is letting us know Rick Atkinson has a great series about the American Revolution. That rings a bell, but I don't think it's for the right reason. I think I'm confusing it with an actor from the 80s. And by series, do you mean books? Because I have a local indie colleague, indie author who writes the books of the American Revolution, and to me, they really feel like they're geared toward young adults because of the way they're written, but they're very good historical fiction. So there we go. Libro says Friday, Stalin's daughter arrives. Ah, book mail. Excellent. Stalin's daughter. That rings a vague bell. Is that a new release? Someone else might have mentioned it recently. Ben says, I have a backlog of other books to work through before I buy any more books. Maybe. Are you doing read what you own? You're not doing read what you own. I don't know. I don't remember. I can't imagine. But maybe. Julie says, I'm looking forward to hearing about your buddy read of the John Lewis book. He's such an icon. Yes. We were thinking we would do a discussion of it this past Monday, but I was not finished and Tiffany was stressed about holiday plans and everything. So we delayed it. So it might be next Monday, but more likely the Monday after that. So like second week in December. But really, really moving reads. Very convincing, very compelling. I'm not sure where it will stop because it says a memoir of the movement, and we basically have concentrated on his growing up and coming of age. So we just did 68, I think. We just went through the 2 assassinations, and I don't know where it's gonna finish up because he's already sort of cataloged that the movement is broken apart and like people have taken over it. The nonviolence part has sort of died out. So I don't know where he's gonna end it. I was curious about that. Really well written though. Libro says never read any Irving, Dickens, or Steinbeck. Wow, you got some classics there that are off your list, but the Bronte sisters are canon. No notes. No notes. I will say I have read Dickens. There's some that I like, and I know that Jim has read all of Dickens, and he's just done a video ranking them. So if you feel like listening in on that, Steinbeck, I want to like him more, but I tried Isavian earlier this year and could not get into it. Couldn't get over the resistance to it, I should say. And Irving, I have an early no Irving a dislike from required reading in high school, so not feeling compelled. There are 4 of them. Children of the Broken Treaty? Rick Atkinson has a great series. Okay, so you're talking about the American Revolution series. But I don't know yet if it's books or a TV show. Catpaw says, what are the December reading themes besides Dickens for Christmas? So there's ghost stories for Christmas. There's usually like a mystery themed one. What else for December? I usually don't participate in anything particular because it's too crazy. But yeah, I don't think there's many others going on. I think it's more like videos, people trying to put out videos. Because if you don't know, November and December are the highest payouts for ads. So if you get a good video that like a lot of people like, your ads will win you more, earn you more. Ben says, not specifically doing read what you own, but I'm trying to be sensible for once. Understandable. I mean, I feel like my whole channel history of 5.5 years has been fighting against the increase, right? It's kind of like being on a diet. Like you're trying to be sensible, you're trying to eat healthy, you're trying to not take in so many more calories, go for walks, like do some exercise, do some strength training, but like there's always such good food. So it's hard. It's hard. The balance, as I said, is a book in each hand. It's hard. Um, Anne says, a thought-provoking Christmas book is Small Things Like These. Is that a Christmas book? I mean, isn't that about the clinics, the Magdalene clinics by Claire Keegan? I've heard a lot of her short hardcover fiction is really good, but again, short hardcover fiction, not gonna do it. Libro says Svetlana Alliluyeva. I think this might be, I'm not sure. This is a fragment of a sentence, Libro. BBC interview. Okay, is it an interview with this person that's completely separate from Rosemary Sullivan's biography? You just ordered a biography. Okay, so you're getting book mail on Friday, and then you just ordered another biography. I see a pattern here. Jim says, I bought Villette today. I have read Anne and Emily's novels, but only Jane Eyre from Charlotte. I don't want to set your expectations too high, Jim. I went into a Charlotte frenzy after loving Jane Eyre, and none of them came up to that same height. It is her best known and loved novel for a reason, but there are small things to get out of the other books. So yeah. Ben says, I've kept close to single figures for purchases in November, which is a pleasant change of pace for my bank account. Well done. Well done. Yeah, you can focus on your watch later video list then, I suppose. Cat Paw says, ghost stories. I can do that. I have some saved up, and Kate Moss's The Winter Ghost is also due a reread. Kate Moss with an E. I know, I mean, there's Kate Moss the model, but I'm thinking there's another Kate Moss. He was an Australian writer, or maybe just Australian booktubers have talked about her. There's a Kate Moss who did The Burning Chambers, which I think is the one with the E, which I haven't read, but looked really good. So, like I said, there's so much good food out there. It's hard to say no. It's hard to say no. Okay, so you guys have got my current reads, and then I just thought it would be fun any upcoming events people have to share. So on my horizon, we will be talking about Walking with the Wind pretty soon. But my next read, my on deck, if you will, is this book, which I just got in from the library, Holds, and I took it away with me, and I will probably have to be late turning it back in because I'm here. And there were 74 people waiting. So I'm thinking that people will want this copy before I get back to Portland. But it's coming up short, a memoir by Robert Reich. He has a great YouTube channel, which I recommend everyone follow. He has a company called Inequality Media, which I think is a nonprofit that does like infographics and short graphic videos to illustrate inequalities in American politics, how we can take action, how we can combat the craziness, if you will. And if you don't know why it's called Coming Up Short, it's because he has a like a genetic condition where he stopped growing at a certain age, and so he's shorter than everyone. But he was in the Clinton administration as Secretary of Labor, and he was also a professor at Berkeley for a long time. So he's got like really good credentials in terms of understanding inequality and the labor market. And no one does nowadays who's in power. So he's just got a very calm voice and just is a very good commentator on these sorts of things. So that is my next up book, if anyone is excited about something coming up. Okay, Kate Morton is an Australian writer, but I know her books are very different. I'm thinking of a Moss that writes short supernatural fiction, but maybe I have the name wrong. Kate Moss with an E wrote Labyrinth, says Jim. That would be kind of a weird connection, like Labyrinth the movie, the book that it's based on. That would be an interesting connection to make. Libro is clarifying here. Sullivan's biography of Stalin's daughter. Okay, Rose, got it. Okay, you're linking these back here, and thank you. Tragic Life of Stalin's Daughter. She defected to the US. Yes, you did mention this in a long comment on a video, I think, and I do remember reading that. Thank you for reminding me. That's helpful. Kate Moss is Labyrinth, Sepulcher, and Citadel. Okay, Citadel, I think I remember hearing about. Huh. Okay. Cat Paw says Robert Reich does great short essays on Facebook. Okay, so like posts that are pretty long but comprehensive. Yeah, good. Glad you see them somewhere anyway. That's good. Vince says I have my 3-year channel anniversary live stream on Sunday at 3 p.m. GMT, which I am looking forward to. Yay! That should be awesome. Did you write in a post asking for questions for that or just announcing it? I think I remember seeing that. That I'll probably be there. That'll be fun. Yeah, I know Kate Moss the model. That's Anne says I'm reading Nobody's Girl by Virginia Roberts. Jufre? I don't know how to say that. It's very interesting though. It will make you angry. I don't know if I know this one. I don't recognize the name of the writer, but there may have been another book with the same title because it's a pretty plain title. So, make you angry. Oh boy. Okay, so Jim says Labyrinth is historical fiction set in Carcassonne, Southwest France. Labyrinth. Huh. So not the book the movie cult classic was based on. But Carcassonne, that's like prehistoric monuments. So that sounds like it does relate to Labyrinth, which is really cool. Okay. I did, if anyone has any. Okay, so if you have questions for Ven after being on Booktube for 3 years and wanting him to stay here, send some questions over Ven's way because that would be fun. Okay, so Virginia, this is not the person who committed suicide, right? That's a different but Virginia rings a bell, but that's not the last name that I remember. Okay. An Epstein survivor, is it the one who committed suicide? And then the book obviously went big. The book that finally brought Prince Andrew down. Now, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Oh boy. Okay, so Nobody's Girl. Yes, it is. So why do I have a different last name in my head? Jufra. Okay, maybe I'm just getting it mixed up. Jufre. Thank you. Julie's pronouncing it for me. Jufre. I think I was hearing it only with the podcast, and I was thinking it was Dufre, so I just did not have that spelling in my head. Okay. Thank you for clarifying. It is the woman who committed suicide. Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh, wow. So yeah, that will make me angry, but that is a really good book to have on your next up list. Ooh. Yeah, and I hope Andrew comes to the US soon to give testimony because that would be some good reporting in the courtroom to follow up on. Oh man. Wow. Okay. So excellent. So we've got the live stream on Sunday and we've got some good books coming up for people. Very exciting. And book mail, always fun. And like ghost stories for December. So good roundup, everybody. Thank you for sharing. Sweet. Okay, so I'm about done. I've got my 7 books. I've got my current reads. I've got my up next, and I got my cookbook story. So my Brussels sprouts are excited to be made tomorrow. All right, so that is it for me, everybody. Thank you for watching and being here every Wednesday and Friday morning for me. And I appreciate it. Happy reading, everyone. Take care of yourselves. Safe travels and wear the mask on the transportation. Take care of yourselves. Just saying. Don't forget to diversify that shelf. All right. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.